Pritam. Welcome to our channel Axiom Union. So today I'll be discussing about functions. I'll be discussing about different types of function, and I'll be discussing about different aspects of function. Okay, so let's get started. Okay guys, so what is a function, right? Function. So a function is defined. The function is defined as the relationship, okay? Relationship or mapping. Relationship or mapping between, this is the most important part guys, between an independent variable and a dependent variable, okay? Between an independent and a dependent variable. An independent and a dependent variable. Okay? So that's a function, the most important thing about function. So independent and the dependent variable. Independent variable can be regarded as an input and the dependent variable is regarded as the output. Okay? If I give you a real life example or real life application, if you can think about distance and time, alright? You can say that when time changes, distance also varies, alright? So suppose distance is a function of time. So what happens when you change the value of time, your value of distance also varies. Okay, that means you can independently change the value of your time. Alright, but the distance, the value of the distance will depend on the value of the time that you take. Alright, and the function, what is that function? Alright, what is that relationship? That function can be a linear function. That function can be a quadratic function, that function can be a cubic function, that function can be a multi-polynomial function, that function can be a trigonometric function, that function can be an asymptotic or a reciprocal function. Okay, so that is the most important thing, the relationship, the input and the output. The input, relationship and the output. Those three together comes under the function. Okay, alright, so let me give you the notification of function. So what is function? Basically guys, conventionally we regard x as our input and y as our output, alright? So we can write y equals to f of x, okay? So x is the independent variable, y is the dependent variable, okay? So if you change the value of x, your value of y will also change, okay? So similarly, if I give you the distance and time example, distance if you say as d, and your time is t, so distance is a function of time, okay? You can give many other examples. Suppose you consider a liquid is poured in the bucket, okay? And you pour the bucket, you pour the liquid from the bucket. So the way, the amount of liquid that is falling from your bucket is also one kind of function. So you can say, suppose the liquid that is contained in your bucket is the volume. Suppose that is a V. Okay, and the amount that is falling, it is in say h, alright, or you can say small v. So you can say v equals to f of v, small v. The small v is the amount of liquid that is pouring out, and v is the main volume, alright? Okay. Guys, right now I'll be discussing about the types of functions. Okay, types of functions. That's the most important part, because if you do not know about the types of functions, you cannot understand how the independent and the dependent variable changes. Okay. However, before types of function, we have to cover the range and domain of a function. Okay, so let's get started. What's the domain and range of a function? So what is the domain and what is the range? Okay. All right. Domain and the range. So domain, it is the set of all values of x, okay, all values of x, or more precisely the independent variable, values of independent variable for which function f of x, or whatever your function is, f of t, and whatnot, like many other functions, okay? So it is the set of values of x, independent variable, for which f of x exists, okay? I'll be explaining you domain and range with some sets, okay? So that's the most crucial part. Now let us talk about what is the range. So range, it is the set of all values which f of x can take. Alright? Suppose you have a domain. Suppose you have a domain, say you have a domain from 1 till 5. Okay? So for your domain from 1 till 5, there can be a range or output y, say 6 to 10. So that would be your range. Alright? Range is something that you cannot change. Okay? Domain you can domain you can change anytime you want since it is the independent variable, but range you cannot change. Okay, why you are calling it range and domain? Because it is a set of values. All right, this is no longer an individual value. Okay, if it was an individual value, we could call it x and y. However, since it's a set of values, we are regarding it as domain and then the range. Domain is for the independent variable and range is for the dependent variable. Okay, so far clear? Okay, now I'll be explaining you in terms of set. What is the domain and range? Okay, so this is the definition, guys, the basic one. However, I want you to understand the meaning of range and domain very well. Okay, the definition is for giving you mild understanding, but here is the main real understanding. Okay, suppose you have a domain. Suppose you have domain, say x. Okay, so domain contains the elements, say A, B, C, D, E, and F. Okay, and your range contains 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. Okay, and as per the mapping goes, mapping or the relationship goes. Suppose you have a function. Suppose you have a function, say f of x. All right. You don't know what is the function, whether it can be linear, it can be quadratic, or any other function. After that function, if you can map one element of x to y, that means suppose if I map a with 4, that means when you put a in terms of in place of x, you are going to get what? 4 in your range. Okay. So a gets mapped directly to 4, b gets mapped directly to 1. Okay. C gets mapped directly to 3, D gets mapped directly to 2, alright? Okay, so as you can see, A gives out 4, B gives out 3, C gives out 2, and D gives out 1. Okay, so this is the domain which is getting mapped to the range. That means when you give out these values of x, you are going to get these values of y. Right now, you can see that there are 2 more elements in your domain, E and F, which do not correspond, which do not map to any values of y. That means E and for the elements E and F, your domain of x is undefined. Alright? Okay, so let me write it down. I'll write it down over here. Say for values are E and F, the domain is undefined because it is not getting mapped. Alright, so this is the main reason. Okay, so if I write the range and domain, what will you get? So I can write it like this. Okay, I can write it like this. So your domain is x belongs to, in terms of set, your x is A, B, C, and D. Okay, and your range is y belonging to 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is the range and domain. So for these values of x, you are getting these values of y. So this is the domain and this is the range. These are all set of values. Okay. So that's the most important part. This is the input of values, this is the output. Okay? This is very important, guys. For various functions, there are various kind of domain and ranges, okay?